Okay, sweet. So we all have cards working, which is super, super nice. Um, took took a minute, took some perseverance, but we're here. Um, and let me close out the package JSON and index.js and all of that. Sweet. So now if we find, I should close some stuff. Here's our beautiful app. Has none of the data we want in it yet, but it has what we told it to have, which is a header of about Amy and a description of hey. And it's not styled yet because it's like weird and in the corner, but it's definitely on its way. It looks infinitely better than if we had just rendered it without any of that. So, what do you guys think our next step is?
Yeah, fetch the API.
Yeah, we're gonna fetch the API. Do you guys remember how to do that in React? It's component, one of these. Then in here, let's throw a fetch, and let's get the API, which I will also Slack out to you in just a second. Okay, I just sent it out to you guys. Just write a component will mount with a fetch inside of it with that URL. That is a giant bag of gummy bears.
For everyone.
Don't be
scared. Yeah. Make sure they're not poison.
So after we have our fetch request in here, what do we write out? Dot then, yeah. What do we want to do in this dot then? We want to turn that shiz into JSON. And then we want to actually do something with what is returned to us, which is just a JSON, giant JSON object. So this is where we're actually going to do something with our data. But what do we want to do with our data? We want to put it somewhere so we can access it.
In an array.
We want to put it in an array? Where do we, for loop, always the answer. We want to put it in state, but we haven't put state in yet. So right now I'm just going to throw a console log in here so we can go look at what our data looks like. There's just a big array of 31 things. Sweet. So we know we want to initialize a empty array in our state and then load it in here. So I'll just call it data. And I had it without a super in here, and there was a little warning on my terminal that I wasn't allowed to put this before super, so I threw super in here. Cool. So we're console logging our response right now, which isn't actually helping us in our app at all. What do we want to do with our response? What?
Map it.
We want to map it? We will eventually. We will want to eventually map it.
You want to put it in data.
We want to put it into data. So I'm going to open this up to multi-line, so I'm going to throw curly braces in here. How am I going to put this response into state, into data?
This dot stage dot data.
This will give us an error if we try and use something with .state data because we will be directly mutating state. There's
This dot set state.
Yeah. And this .set state is a function which we are calling, so we have our parentheses open and we are passing it an object. So we have those guys. And so we want data to now be equal to our response. So now if I go look in my React DevTools, we have an array of 31 things, which is just fantastic. Okay, awesome. So now we have this data, but we wanna do something with it now. We wanna map through it and create cards, right? So how do we want to do that? There's a few ways we can approach this problem.
What are we doing? Sorry.
No, you're good. So we have our data array now, and we want to map through it and create a card for each item in this array.
So we're going to pass that data to the card,
Yeah, we can do it that way.
or do we, because it's a functional component, right, our card?
Mhm.
So to me, if you're going to be doing something repeatedly without changing state, you can use a functional.
Yeah, so we're using a functional, which usually the way I use functional components is this just like returns a bunch of things for me. So in my mind, how we would approach this problem, and this is one of those things we get into where it's personal preference.
Okay, so, go ahead, let's do it your way.
Oh, no, like continue thinking it your way, because I think I got a little confused by what you were saying.
I was just saying, like, we would pass the data through as a prop.
Into card, and
as a
then
card, and then in the card, we would just repeatedly spit out how many divs according to.
yeah, so that was like, I was gonna say two ways, and that was one of the ways, so nailed it. We can either map through and return this element here, or we can map in here and return the entire component with different props passed to it. Two different ways of doing it. So let's pass it down and do it this way, because I think it's a way you're more familiar with. So let's say data equals this dot state dot data. And then once we are passing data into our character card component, we'll jump over to our character card. We want to make sure we're taking props here. Sorry. Here, I'll just leave it so both are open all the time. So we are passing data, which is just this.state.data, into our character card component. Make sure you are telling this functional component that it's taking props, so we can reference props. And then we have to put a map in somewhere. Where am I going to put my map?
Above your render function app.
In the app? Well, we passed an array down into this, so I think we're going to do our map in here.
After data, like the return on app?
On app. So we're not gonna do, we can do a map in here, but if we're gonna map in our app, we don't need to pass it data.
Oh,
So if we want to pass data to character card and map in here, we can, or we can keep data in here and map through it and return character cards for it. So
Above the return, below the constant.
yeah, let's try it. Let's do, ooh, that's a word, props dot data dot map. Where is this part gonna go? Where is this gonna close out?
Below the return parentheses, but above the.
And then I'm gonna throw one thing in here so it doesn't break our code. We need to return props.data.map. Oh, and it's still breaking. Why is it breaking? For fun. Oh, that's my bad. Cool. I'm actually gonna call it character. So I forgot to give it a name. Parameter. So what's happening here is we're saying, okay, this component needs to return something. So we're having it return our map. We're having it return whatever comes out of our map. So in the end, it is still returning this card component, but it's going to return it with whatever we tell it to in our map. I didn't save it, I don't think. So many cards. You should have 31 cards because this map is running through props.data, which is an array of 31 items. So now we just want to try and use that data a little bit better. So let's go look at our state and look at one of these objects and see what we want to get in here. So we have age, eye color, gender, hair color, name. Name's probably pretty big. Do we want to put? Let's put name into header. So how am I going to get that to happen? Data.name? Well, I named this character. It's not named data anymore.
Character dot name?
How did you look at the stuff that's in the API?
So the React tools,
Yeah, I'm here.
and then you just
Expand
expand
state or
state and just expand one up.
Got it.
And then the name was just like, yes. A cat.
They were just
Yeah.
really lucky. No, we saw name
I
in
was
there.
just hoping it wasn't like nested.
This is fun.
It wasn't nested. This is a good API. It was not nested. So now we have like, oh, look at these beautiful, beautiful cards with different names on them.
They're fun.
With
Could you go
Beautiful.
back to your character card?
Mhm.
Ah, that's one.
I'm happy girl.
sweet. So we're getting pretty close to completing our first story. All we need to do is get a little bit more data into this and maybe try and center our card components so they're not floating around. And then I think we're done with our first story. Cool. So let's look at the card.content options in semantic UI, because right now we only have 3 things, but this object gives us a lot of data that we can use, like age, eye color, films, gender, species. I don't think we'll want to pull from, but there's a few things we probably want to. Species is like a very long URL, and I don't want to make another. So let's go into semantic UI, which is definitely somewhere. Let's look at card, which is under views. Let's go find the card we're using, which is extra content. Okay, so we can use description, and then extra, I think we can just put stuff into extra.
Is there dry erase markers in there?
There should be, but I mean, there never actually is when we want it.
G90 graduated.
Power move. Okay, let's just use card.content, and we can just put, I'm assuming we can put a few different descriptions in there. So let's try that.
Okay.
So right now we have a description. What data do we want to put in here? What info about our character do we want? Ooh. We can do hair color, eye color, age, gender.
We can't do films, huh?
Well, films I think we're gonna want to pull from when we click on it. So that's gonna be a hill we jump over in a minute. Right now we're gonna focus on the story we're on.
With multiple things?
Yeah. Which things do we want to put on there? This isn't like a right or wrong answer. It's just like, what do you guys want on the cards?
The four things that are there that are just kind of like given, like age, eye color, gender, hair color.
Let's do it. So character.age. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this and paste it a few times. So this one's going to be eye_color. This one's going to be gender. And this one's going to be hair_color. And I'm just going to get rid of, well, I'll keep it for now, actually. Never mind.
Whoa. I typed real well. Let's see.
So now let's go look at our app. Oh, look at that. Look how cool. Some of them have specific ages, some of them don't. This is kind of vague though, because you're saying like black, brown. Like we don't know what those are. So bald but beard is brown. So probably hair color is the last one. But that's not really communicative to whoever wants to use our app. So how can I be more specific?
Outside of the curly braces, but before the equals, can we just put like hair color?
Outside the curly braces, but before
Like
the equals?
before-
So right here?
Add the equals before the curly brace.
Yeah, right there.
Right there.
Let's try it.
I didn't type it this way.
Oh, that's not hair color.
Okay, got it.
Nope, it's not gonna let us do that. We can try maybe putting a string in here.
Fancy.
Yeah.
Oh, and let you make it fancy.
Cool. I'm gonna put a space after hair color. So the reason we have to do it that way is because when we put the string outside of this, we're trying to set description equal to two different things. We're trying to set it equal to the string it's going to get from our object and our string. We need to concatenate those somehow. So what we do is inside of our curly braces, we say, hey, this string plus this other string. So description is still only getting one thing, and it still knows what to do with one thing. But we have to tell it to add them together. We could also use a template literal for this, but I'm content with the syntax, if you guys are. So let's do this for each thing in our description. Let's say what it is. Nice. That's pretty descriptive. Age is late teens, eye color is brown, gender is male, hair color is brown. Now we know what's going on. Sweet. Has anyone noticed this error we're getting? Do you guys know what it is?
You
In our map. So whenever we map through something and return a bunch of items like this, in your like most parent level of what you're returning, you need to give it a key. And the key can be absolutely anything, but it has to be unique to each thing that's being rendered. So we probably don't want to use hair color because brown comes up like a million times throughout these 31 items. So what's something that seemed pretty unique through these?
A number, the ID number. Are you right?
So they have, it's always really nice, usually APIs you're calling from have an ID already set for each thing, so you can just take that ID and use it as a key. And this is just so React can use it. You never really use this. So now if we look, that error went away, which is awesome. Okay, we're so close to getting this to work. So now all I want to do, like last thing, I just want to get these centered in our page. I don't want them weird and in the corner here. How should I do that?
Can we CSS the card?
CSS the card?
Or the container that the card is in.
We want to CSS the container the card is in. So let's grab app CSS. We can get rid of all of this because we aren't using any of these classes anymore. But we are using .app. That's really the only class one we actually have on our app right now. So it has a text align of center, which is awesome, but we want everything else to center too. So let's do, not flex, display, flex, justify content, center. Ooh. But now it's not in a column anymore because the way,
Flex direction column.
yeah. Ooh, but they're still in the corner even though we use justify content. Why is that?
The width of the body.
It is not the width of the body. So when you use flex direction to make something a column, align items and justify content switches. So align items is now horizontal. So now what we want here is actually align items. And now it works. So whenever you use column, it flips it on its side. So justify content is up and down, align items is side to side.
What's it supposed to look like now?
Like that.
Instead of justify content, do align items. No, you gotta do that.
Oh, I thought I had.
You can leave justify if you want. It won't do anything because there's so much info. But nice. These look beautiful. So now, guys, we can
Sweet.
put that story into a done pile. So right now it's in progress. Oh my goodness. It loads with character info and it is styled. So that is done. We're completely done with that story.
Should we push this to GitHub so we don't lose everything? Like smart people.
They grow up so fast. Yes, you should take it. Yeah. So you can push it up to your own repo. What I'm going to do is
Do you have to create a repo in GitHub before you push it to it, or can you like, do it?
Yeah,
in the
you have to create it
process?
first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to
You only
use,
create it from the command lines?
I'm going to create a new branch of this one so that we just have like one repo with all the build and burns we've done.
Okay.
But you guys do your thing.
Here, pause it.
I always forget the proper syntax for this. Solid.
Oh gosh, I'm so sleazy.
I like that the people that have broken laptops at some point are always like the biggest advocates for pushing to get GitHub.
Yep, that's me.
Yeah. I feel that like in my soul.
This is gonna sound ridiculous,
Mhm.
but can you walk us through adding something to a new repository? 'Cause I actually don't think I've done it.
Git walks you through it.
I
So when
wasn't
you
aware.
create a new repository,
Okay,
just start creating a new repository in GitHub right here.
okay.
Say new repository, and then it will walk you through how to do it. If you look down like in this area, it will say,
There's all the commands that you use.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I might have just mistyped something.
That's an existing repository.
I made the repository, it's there.
Yep, so you just do all those right there.
I think I must have just done a typo. I don't think that was probably wrong. I hope so. Okay, I did a typo.
sweet. So everything is now pushed. We now have one story done. So now let's work on our next story. Our next one, we want the user to be able to click on a character. Well, and have something happen. The user can click wherever they want, but we want something to happen when they click. So we want to set this up so we can smoothly move into our third story, which is that when it's clicked, they can see info about the movie. So what do we want to do? Do we want to use a ternary? What do we want to use to say that the user's clicked on something?
On click?
We do want an on click. So let's just start out setting ourselves up for success in our app.js. Underneath our component will mount, let's make a handle click function. So how I'm thinking we can approach this problem, somehow we have to get the, let me look at what it's called. So films is an array of however many items, and it gives us the endpoint, the API endpoint that we want to hit to get more information about that film. So we have to get this URL somehow when it's clicked. So what I'm thinking we can do is this will accept a URL. And then to our character data, we're going to pass handle click, which is the key to the value of this dot handle click. I don't know if this will actually work also. But let's jump down this rabbit hole. Adventures. If it doesn't, we'll brainstorm it together. So now in our card, we can give our card an on click that is equal to props dot handle click, and we will give it character dot films.
This is looking dangerous.
It is. I'm feeling it as we're going into it.
This is a bug waiting to happen right here.
100%. Learning opportunities, Sean. Sometimes you want to just dive into the deep end and then fix it.
Well, let's see what works.
What was your handle click prop that you created?
I didn't actually do anything with handle click. The prop is just handle click equals this dot handle click.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this feels real dangerous, Sean. As I was talking it through, I was like,
Why is it dangerous?
Why is it dangerous? Because we are calling the function right here.
Oh, I love that. Right here.
Right here.
So sometimes when you do that, when you call a function right here,
Mm-hmm.
it will immediately happen when you execute the app. Like when you start the app, it's going to call the function.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard to debug. You can be like, what's going on? But there's a way to fix it. So I guess first we'll see is it even working.
I don't know. Let's just have it run a console log of the URL it's getting each time it
Mine
runs.
is like broken, and it told me that was.
Oh, look at all these console logs that just ran when we opened it. Oh no. Oh darn.
Really?
Yours is super broken?
Yeah,
Says
let me
props
look.
dot handle click is not a function.
Yeah, mine did the same thing.
Do you have handle click here and handle click here?
Let's make sure everything got saved properly.
Yeah. Make sure your app.js is saved and that handle click is equal to this dot handle click.
Let's see.
I was missing an I and click.
Yeah, mine's mad.
Okay, let's do it here. Where's your handle click? Get back. Go down. Okay, so for the character part,
Oh.
we're gonna pass it
Oh, I didn't pass it.
handle click equals curly brackets this way.
Okay, so that.
Like put it right from the data. Just start typing right from the data.
I didn't do the whole thing because I didn't.
Tab. Just hit tab. There. Now equals curly braces. This dot handle click.
I can't spell it. I'm spelling handle like the composer.
No.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay, it's not broken.
Sweet. Okay. Well, but it is broken.
It's
But all of
not.
ours is broken together because this console logs a ton of stuff as soon as our app loads. So Sean's prediction was 100% right.
All the things.
This is a common thing that comes up. So
Mhm.
what can you do to, I mean, we want to pass a thing in to handle click, but we don't want it to be like called immediately. So what the F?
Well, that brainstorm. What are ideas?
We can wrap it in an event listener of click or on click, right?
What do you? Well, it is wrapped in on click right now.
Yeah.
Right there. Sean, do you want to throw out some hints?
I mean, I would be Googling it. Let's Google it together.
You could do it like on like once the app renders.
Well, that's what it's doing. Is as soon as the app renders, it's running this function, but we don't want it to run this function when the app renders. We want it to run on click. But since we opened up parentheses, it's running as soon as this
Can
renders.
we Google it together? That's what you would really do.
Let's Google it.
Let's show.
So, like, how
What am I
do you
going to
do that in
Google?
English? How to pass something into React event handling? Yeah. We're not the first person to encounter this dilemma.
That's true.
I think we are.
I think we are. Parameterize.
Okay.
Set a timeout function into it.
Timeout function. How would a timeout function help us?
It doesn't render. It not render till a certain time.
Yeah, but we don't care about what time it renders. We just want it to render on the event, which is the click.
Ooh, wait, because that's an answer right there. There's a check next to it. Doesn't always mean it's good, but looks like the
Let's make
answer.
it readable. Use an arrow function. Oh, but it says easy way and better way. Which one do you think we should use?
Oh, no.
Okay, use an arrow function. So what's happening here is it's opening up some curly braces, opening up an arrow function, saying this function, and then passing it something. But it's not running, is my guess. So let's try it out. Let's throw that guy in here. Is that it?
That's how it works.
That's just nothing. So just throw parentheses right here and an arrow function right here. Or a fat arrow, not an arrow function.
Error function and now, what is this word exactly?
We will talk through it when and if we see it work.
If it works, we'll talk about it.
Invalid event handler property.
Ooh.
Did you get that?
Okay.
I did not get that.
On your console?
My console is clear. So
I mean, loaded just fine.
There's a typo in your on click.
Sean, that sweater looks so comfy.
Okay, so
I feel like it's the perfect sweater to wear when you're saying yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
that all you did was put the parentheses and the fat arrow in there?
Yep, parentheses and fat arrow, that's it.
And then what's your?
And it's supposed to work.
Brokey.
Well, it's not
characters
mad
on
at me.
play?
Like it loads for a split second and it cuts out.
Characters are fine. Division like 7. So
I'm
go back
gonna
to
see
the
we're
point
good
card.
if it's not angry.
Where are you putting your on click if character isn't defined?
Character.
It's always a typo. Not always. 98% of the time.
Like, yes, most of the time it is.
That's why I was.
I think that's like been the hardest thing for me, because like I'll make a typo and I'll be like, everything I wrote is wrong. It's the end of the world.
Also, React is very dramatic when it breaks.
It is.
Like if it breaks, it breaks, which is awesome because then you know.
Yeah.
But
If
Yeah.
you're taking small steps when you're doing things, and you make a typo and everything breaks, like you should know that the last thing that you changed caused that to break. Like that's on you to get used to that.
Yeah.
Like taking small steps and committing when something's working, and then doing something else, and then committing, and so there's only like one thing that's changed. It's not, hey, it's easy to find where you type from.
hmm
Yeah.
I've made
real great at that.
I've made the mistake multiple times of just writing a bunch of code and then going over to where it's running and it's super broken and I'm like, cool, I wrote like 3 functions. Time to find out what broke it. So it's always a good idea to check
That's not my favorite.
often. Commit and check often.
Okay, let's
2
see.
things you want to do.
So nothing's doing anything.
Cool. So it's not giving us a bunch. So let's try clicking on one. And it gave us a URL, which means our event handler is working.
But
I'm not getting anything when I click.
You're not getting anything?
Console? Did
Do you have a
log it?
console log in your handle click?
Oh, you know what? I might have taken
Yeah.
it out.
That is an
Go back to
important
your
part
FGS.
of the console log,
I
is the
might have
console log.
taken it out, I think, because it was in my.
Cool. So let's talk through
Yeah, console log right there.
I took it out.
let's talk through why this function works. Why does throwing just like these 2 things in here make this not run?
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's a thing. That's one of those things where I'm like, if I was doing this by myself, I don't know how to figure that out.
I think it has to do with the fact that you're calling the function, like it has to wait now until you call the function, or until you do the action, versus when you're rendering every single div, it's gonna run through and run that automatically
Mm-hmm.
as it renders it, or as it puts it on the page.
So it's basically the difference between running handle click right here or putting handle, that's actually a bad place to put it. Or if we had like another function that was like handle something. Oh. And if we put handle click in here, that's a big difference in our code. This will run every single time this renders. This will run when this function is called. So same thing is happening here. We essentially wrapped this handle click function in a function. So it's not going to render the first time it goes around because this function hasn't been called yet. So it has to wait for the onClick now. So when the onClick function runs, then, so when this like wrapping function runs, then our handle click will go.
Yeah, you know, there's a big difference between like defining a function and then calling a function, right? It's just like, this is making it, in this case, we're kind of defining a function. We're like, hey, in the future, when someone clicks on this, then we'll do this thing. Or we're not actually just saying like, do the thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're saying wait to do the thing. But it's cool. ES6 is awesome because look how simple that is to stop this from happening. Okay, sweet. So now on to the next step of our logic. So we have the endpoint that we want to get to now, and all of them are in the same movie. Do. There we go. That's a new one. Okay. How are we going to take this and do something with it in our handle click now? So we have the URL that we want to search after. What are we going to do with it? It's very similar to what is directly above this function.
Fetch. Do you need to do the component mount?
No, we don't need to do component mount because this will only happen when the click runs. So component will mount waits for the component to be like put into the tree essentially, and this can't run before this runs because none of these exist before this exists. So we don't need to do that. Cool, so we're fetching our URL. Awesome. And then we run through our normal steps with .then. We say turn that response into JSON. And then we're going to do something with that response.
You have like, is there 2 sets? Okay.
Yep. Yeah, what's up?
Every time I click save, you have like erasing URL for this. It's so weird. Yeah.
That's super weird, I had no idea why I did that.
Looks like it's Thank you. Thank you for helping.
You're welcome. I work hard, you know.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, so now we have a response. Let's look at that response. Let's see what's going on with it. So let's console log it. So now when we click on these, we should get an object about whatever movie they're in. Which we do. Look at that. Title, description, director, producer, all of it. That is a lot. Cool. So we probably want to use title. Description seems important. Director seems good. People would just be like an endless circle of things, so we'll probably leave that out. But how do we want this to render now? What do we want to happen when they click on it? We want them to be able to see the data, but how do we want them to see it?
In another component?
Another component?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So let's go create that extra component. What do you want to call it?
Movie
Movie card.
details. What did you say?
Movie card.
Do we want it to be a card?
Movie card.
Okay.
Or do, I don't know.
I mean,
Sure.
it'd be easy
Yeah.
to make it a card. Cool, so movie card. Do we want movie card to be a functional or a class component?
Class because
You're just like over there shouting out class every once in a while.
it's just returning JSX and functions. Because is it going to have children?
Probably not.
Yeah. Well then yeah, it's functional then.
Nice. No children means it's functional.
That's so true.
Means it's That's pretty good. Okay. Okay. Ryan, I respect your love for class components, but we're going to use functional. I'm just going to throw a div in here so that my code doesn't yell at me as soon as I'm doing that. So I did the necessary things in React. I imported React from React. I made my functional component, which takes props and has a return, and then I exported that component. Do we want this to be a card? Because we can do the same like import card from Semantic UI React and all that if we do want it to be a card.
Can I see your app real quick?
Yep.
Oh, we're just console logging.
Yeah, we're not actually doing anything with it yet.
So if we put it into a card, is it just gonna be that small little card?
Mhm.
Or will it build out to like, to hold all the information?
It'll still be
Like
that
the description, it's not
small.
a lot in it.
Yeah, it'll still be small. But, I mean, this description's pretty long. They make it fit. But we can find something else if we want it to look different. We don't necessarily have to have a card. Semantic UI has a bunch of stuff. Let's look. Let's find some things.
Would you recommend we use this for staffing instead of looking at bootstrapping? Because I was having a really hard time with the bootstrap for React and it's nutting.
I personally prefer Semantic UI. A lot of the people I graduated with preferred it.
Okay.
It's something that whatever works with your brain best is what you should use. So play around with them.
I found that bootstrap wasn't very intuitive and it didn't always work. And I had a lot of fights with it. I spent like 2 hours fighting with it yesterday.
That list message thing looks good, because it could have like the movie title, and then like the things below it.
Oh, this one?
The box, yeah.
Nice. I dig it. Oh, wow, there's a lot of them. Okay, cool. Let's do list message. So you might want to go find it. It's in modules. Wait, I think it's in modules. No, wait, where is it? It's in collections, hit message, and then find the list message. And then copy that guy, throw it in there, copy this guy.
So I.
So I just copied and pasted this from Semantic UI. Yeah, I just got rid of the div and put the message component in there, or the message tags in there from here. Cool. So this won't load anywhere yet, and it's not receiving any props. It's not doing anything yet. So we have to figure out. Awesome, we've created this container. We're going to use it in a second. And if you're still a little behind, A-okay, we'll pop back over to this container in a second. But right now, let's go into our app.js. We fetch the URL for the movie, and we get all the details about the movie, but we're not doing anything with it yet. And we need to do something with it, and then we need to somehow have movie cards render instead of character card. So there's a few steps here. So first, let's focus on we need to get this data somewhere. We need to get our movie data somewhere. So what am I going to do?
You're going to create a new object in the state.
I like it.
Movie data.
Oh, that's in my set state. My bad. Cool. So in my constructor, I'm creating a new key with a value of an empty array. Cool. So now in here, I'm going to do the exact same thing I did last time, which is set state. And I'm going to set movie data equal to what? What is movie data
Movie data response.
response? Sweet. We just have a couple more steps and then we might be able to finish this by lunchtime if we go a little fast. So now we have our set state, setting movie data equal to all our response data. Up here, I'm going to import movie card so we can use it from components / movie card. Movie does not look like a word anymore. Cool. And I only want movie card to render after this handle click runs. And when this handle click runs, I don't want character card to render anymore. So what do you think I can do to make that happen?
Ternary.
Ternary. So let's just say, you can call it loaded. And we want to set it equal to false. Because initially we don't want this to run. So let's wrap this guy in curly braces. And then we are going to say this dot state dot loaded question mark. I'm going to say, okay, check this. If it's true, what do we want to load? So initially it starts out as false. We want this to load after it's been clicked. So initially, what if it's true, what do we want to load?
The movie card.
Movie card. So we want character card to load when it's false. Because in here, we're going to change loaded to true. So then our movie card will display instead of our character card. So the pieces you need in that, you need to wrap both of those components in curly braces. You need to say this.state.loaded question mark, movie card, colon, character card. But right now, our movie card will never load. It's always false. We never set it to true. So what am I going to do? I want movie card to load when our click function runs. So how am I going to make that happen?
They're gonna
This dot state dot.
Okay, Ryan? On click? Well, we already have on click. We already have a handle click running on click.
So we're gonna, in that on click, we're gonna set it to change the state, the loaded to true.
Yeah. So we have a set state running already. So in that set state, we're also just going to change loaded to true.
I think I mistyped something, so I'm just.
That's okay. I will spend time with you after lunch if you're running into errors right now. I kind of want to power through for the last 15 minutes so we can get this going, and I can show you how to deploy it, and then any errors you run into we'll come back to later. Cool. So we have loaded changing to true in our set state inside of our handle click now, which means that movie card will now load after we click something. So let me go see if that works really fast. Let's just test it out. Oh, awesome. So it runs something that we don't necessarily want it to run, but it's running, and that's awesome. So let's just try and figure out, now we don't want this for a movie card. We don't want new site features, blah, blah, blah. We want info about the movie that character's in. So what am I gonna pass it and what am I gonna do? I don't have to map this time because there's only one item, but I gotta do something. I'll just give you the answer. So we're gonna pass movie data into movie card, and it'll be this .state.movie data. So now when we go into movie card, we can start utilizing the data that will be in this object that we pass it. Cool, so right now we have that, and if we go look at our movie data, we have an object with a description and a director and a title, which I think feels like good things to load. So how am I gonna get those things to load in here?
Use brackets,
Yeah.
right? Props.
I think it's just title, right? For title.
Movie data dot title.
Yeah.
Thank you. Movie data dot title. So now let's go try this out. Let's click on something. Oh, we have a title of the movie that they are in. And what else? Does director and description sound good?
Send it. Props dot media dot direct.
Yeah, I'm just gonna assume they called it director because I'm pretty sure that's why I saw them do it. And then right here, we will try props.moviedata dot description. Cool, so just to run through really quick what's happening, we have a handle click function that when it is clicked, grabs the URL that comes with the character that we click on. It makes a fetch request to that URL. It gives us our response, turns it into JSON, so now we have all this movie data. Changes loaded to true, so now we'll actually see the card. And since loaded is true now, it will try and render this. And when it tries to render it, it will pass it our movie data. Then we go into our movie card. Props has that prop that we passed. We access the prop, and we access the information we want out of it and render it on our page. So now let's try it out. It works.
That's the best movie too.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
That's
Spirited Away's better.
You know what?
Spirited Away
Lies.
already won the award, so.
So therefore must
Cat turns, get out.
So I'm gonna do this just so it's a little bit more obvious that what we're loading is the director, because otherwise it's just a name. But that's not super important. That you can do if you want to. What I want to do right now is really quick style this so it's centered, and then move on to deploying it. So all I'm going to do is say justify content, center. Which should work. Let's see if it did. It did not. So we got to give it a height of at least 100 view height. It might need to be more. Cool. But that messes that up. That's what I figured. Yeah, so if I set height on the app, it squishes all of this into 100 view height, which it is much more than that. So
oh my goodness.
how am I going to center this? I'm going to do it a little bit of a hacky way, actually, just because we're in a crunch for time. And give it a class of movie, and then an app CSS dot movie. This you don't need to follow along with if you want to. I just don't want to deploy something that looks like garbage.
This is not a good way to do it because they're doing this whole thing all the time.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Why is that not working? What the heck? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll do it a different way.
You have to import the CSS. Do that.
No, so we import it into here, and this is where that component runs through anyways, so it gets the CSS when it comes to this component. But what I'm going to do is what I should do, which is wrap movie card in a div.
Give it an ID.
I'm going to give it a class name because I prefer to stick to class names, but that's a personal preference thing. I don't know. I feel like IDs should be used for serious things, so I try and keep it to that. And then movie, what we're going to do in movie is I'm going to set it to width, 100 view width, height, 100 view height, display flex, which, I mean, it's like a full across the board, which we could probably make it smaller. Let's make width like 50. There you go. That looks a little better at least. Tiny, but.
What did you do in CSS?
I will copy and paste this and send it out in a second. Right now I want to walk through Surge and why it's happening the way it is. And then if you want to hang out, I'll like chill and talk you through why all this works the way it does. So what would happen if I just tried to run Surge just like from this? What do you think would happen?
Just to guess, it would probably just deploy all the static assets.
It would look real bad. It'd break real bad. I'm not going to do it. If you ever want to mess around and do it, have at it. But your browser knows how to read JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, not JSX. So it can't just take like all of these different components and turn it into something. You need to tell React to turn it into something that's readable by your browser. So what we do is we say npm, oh, not right there. npm run build. And what that does is it turns it into something readable to your browser. So it just like creates this document, which we can look at in a second, that we can't read, but our browser can read, and that's what's important.
Doesn't it like put all your code into like just one line?
Yes, yes. So let's go look at our build folder, which now exists. Build. Look at all this. Look at that HTML. Look how readable. So what this is doing is it took everything we wrote and it used all of this to turn it into an actual page. So to deploy it, we have to go into that build folder and deploy it from there. And so then we just run Surge. Oh, wait, no. Oh, I hate when this happens. Okay. Let me open my terminal. Sweet. Okay, so cd into build. Let's blow this up. Oh, that is large. Okay, cd into build, and then run Surge. It didn't. Cool. Also, I never used Surge before yesterday. It is so easy.
Yeah.
It's insane. I used Firebase when going through the program, which like you have to like do all these steps to make it work. Surge, you literally just type Surge and just hit enter, and then it's like, yeah, here.
It works really well for like one of the things I'm doing for one of my portfolio projects, like the owner of the company that I'm working for, like I'll make something and I'll just deploy it instantly. Be like, here's another link, here's another link, here's another link. You know?
Here's another one, here's another one.
Yeah, you can
It's so nice. But yeah, look at our working site that is just deployed and beautiful. But there's one problem with our site that we didn't get to because we ran out of time, which is you can't go back. You get to see the movie, and if you try and go back, it just takes you back there. So you can see the movie, and then you can refresh the page, and it will take you back. but choose very, very wisely. But we could very easily just create a back button that changes that loaded state to false, and then it would take us back to this page. Cool. So if you want to, works on your phone. Yeah, look at that. So to reiterate, we did a bunch of stuff. We killed it. We made semantic UI work, which is a battle. We made a component that shows our movie data only. This is really cool. So we rendered a bunch of characters. We made it so when a character is clicked, we grab whatever movie, the first movie they were in. If they're in multiple, sorry, you only get the first one. And then it renders a component with all of that data specific to that character. Super dynamic. Killed it. And then you deployed it, which was a little bit of just super, super simple.
We're doing a classroom discussion at 1 o'clock. We're gonna chat about calendar real quick. And
Dope.
then, component study hall, after